and Ideo was something that I was always like fascinated with, more impactful as well as like understanding these technologies and what's like UX as a field and what does UX designer do.
Welcome to the Design Night podcast, and thanks a lot for showering all the love to us. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe because we bring awesome design journeys from really great design speakers out there. So today we have Rahul Jain with us. He is currently working as an interaction designer at Google, and he has some amazing journey to share. And we're gonna get started with the podcast. Let's get him on the stage, and we'll start. Hey Rahul, how are you doing?
Hey Abhay, how are you? I'm good.
I'm doing great. How's the day been?
They've been pretty good. It's just the day has started, so it's 9 a.m. here, and yeah, pretty excited to talk to you.
Amazing. So let's just start the podcast with a little bit of introduction of yours for the audience out there.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Rahul. I'm an interaction designer at Google, and I work with the Google Workspace team, so which includes Gmail, Drive, Google Meet, and previously I was with Google Ads. And at Google, it's been almost like 4 years now. And before this, I have like spent some time at Ideo, and I did my master's here in the US at Indiana University, studied HCI, and before that, I have a background in engineering, electronics and communication from India. And yeah, between that, I've done like worked with a couple of startups, agencies, a lot of freelance work. So yeah, a little bit of everything.
Sounds amazing, and I think we're gonna get deep dive into every piece of this journey. So let's just start with your college experience. How was that been? And I'm assuming from the school itself, you would have decided that engineering is something that at that time you want to pursue. But in the college itself, did you kind of figured out design is something you're calling, or like how that process happened?
Yeah, so interestingly, I wanted to always build something. So I was inspired by like creating, building. So I chose engineering as in my bachelor's. But when I got in, I was still figuring out like what do I want to do. And that time, I think one of our seniors had started a company, and they were like a small startup, and they needed like some help with like their branding, some website design, and some just like regular graphic work. And that's how I just got started. I worked with them, and I created those assets, and I learned to use Photoshop, I learned to use Illustrator, and just I think like self-taught some of these tools. And that's how I got started into design. But until I graduated, I did not know what's like UX as a field and what does UX designer do. So my first job was still out of school, was like I joined as a graphic designer in a company, in a like a small agency. And over there, in a couple of months, I figured out like working with like front end developers and back end developers, and found this field of like UX design, and what is it and how does it work and what do UX designers do. So that is how I think I got introduced to UX. It was like gradual. I didn't know I was already doing it, but since I started in that field, I got like more deeper into it and got a better understanding.
Sounds amazing. So, how that learning curve for UX kind of happened for you? Because while we do designs, but kind of knowing about UX, learning some techniques and everything really helps. So, how that
Mhm.
happened for you?
So I think a lot of it was like just working on the ground with with engineers, with managers, and I think it's also like building a lot of intuition, because at that time I didn't know like about UX research. We did not have that kind of like the facility available for us to go out there and spend time. And frankly speaking, I wasn't even aware of like the whole process. We were less focused on like building apps and websites, and that's what we did, and like learning about the principles, learning about what are the best patterns. And then I started reading more about like design, like reading books about like the design of everyday things, like so on and so forth, like all the uh, important design books that are out there. And that's how I think I got like some theoretical understanding, and that's how I started like applying those understanding in my day-to-day work. Like how do I actually talk to some of like the people within the company, get feedback from them, and uh, just in general like get some more like iterations and get some more options for every design that I do, and see how like show to people and see how they're reacting, what do they think, what can be improved. And I think that's how I like started getting into a little bit of the process. And then when I went for my masters, I like studied in detail on like what is UX research, how do we do research, what are the best practices, how do like designers work with the researchers and engineers. And that's where I learned a lot of like the foundational stuff, I would say.
And I think that's really practical as well, because uh, I think it's I kind of resonate with it, because even I didn't do any design school or any design courses at the time when I
Mhm.
started, but kind of working with startups and working with people out there, it really helps. For me,
Mhm.
I think mentorship also played a really important part. Did that same kind of happen with you? Did mentorship kind of played an important part?
Yeah, I think at that point I did not have a lot of like mentors in person. I got inspired by a lot of things watching online. So I watched like a lot of like YouTube videos, and like at that time I think it was probably 2014, 15, like early 2015. So the UX as a field wasn't it was still upcoming. It wasn't as out there. So you had to like go out and find like who are the like top UX voices, who are the people that are talking about UX as a field, and how do you actually connect with them. So it was very hard to do that. So I think most of my learning was through podcasts, through YouTube videos, through just and like that was like the kind of mentorship that I received was like just getting to hear these people and getting to know about them, and getting to know their stories and watch them talk and watch them do work. Like they would do some live streams and stuff. So I would just learn by actually like looking at how they're doing, and uh, just like yeah, virtually mostly. And I think mentorship came in very later in my life in person when I actually joined uh, my first company and in US, and that was a small design agency, and like the manager really helped me like polish my skills and like help me better understand, help me build like the intuition in a better way. So that's where I actually got like in-person mentorship. But I think the mentorship could be started even before. Like you can uh, like watch and learn a lot of things online too.
Yeah, and I think it really sounds amazing, because as you said, mentorship really happens, and it can happen in different ways. For some people, it will be meeting with person and other pieces. Like today, we have amazing platforms like ADP List and other, where we can get free mentorship and everything. But uh, obviously, at that time, there were less platforms. Very difficult to kind of find people. First, find people and then kind of contact and kind of talk to them.
Exactly.
So I think that's really awesome that YouTube was kind of your motivator, and then as you kind of went into industry became your pathway to kind of figure things out. It sounds
Mhm.
amazing. As you kind of you said kind of you joined some firms. We kind of collaborated with a lot of front end developers back end to kind of understand the process and everything. Then how did kind of going abroad or something that came into your mind? How that process went?
Yeah, so I think when I was working in India, I think I felt that I needed a little bit more understanding of like the basics, understanding of the foundation of UX, of like this field. I did not know about human-computer interaction as a like field or a study existed, and it's very based on like academics, based on research, like deep studies and stuff. So I did not know a lot about it, but I was very curious to know about it, to know like, and I was also very curious about like psychology, how the business works, how design can help improve the business, or how do we collaborate better with engineers. So there were like a lot of these things that I wanted to get deeper into, and I wasn't getting a lot of opportunities back then. So I thought, let's like I need to up my game and up my skill, and that's how I started looking for like courses. In India, there were like very few colleges or universities who are actually having like these like design courses, some of which were IITs and some like visual design schools. So I started looking outside as well, like what are the options, and I found I applied to a couple of universities, and I got into admitted into Indiana University, and that was actually really good. So when I came to US and just saw how like the whole field is, and what are the different aspects of it, and how do they actually methodically approach design, and just getting to like be there in that environment among other designers, and just the co-learning space. I think that was something that really helped me shape like who I am as a designer.
I think really that sounds amazing. So, how the process of kind of choosing the colleges that you really wanna get into. Let's just wanna I just wanna kind of curious to kind of know how that process happened.
Hmm.
Uh, how did you figure out the type? Because you said because at the time UX, HCI were very less known fields. So
Hmm.
how that thinking in your mind happened to kind of choose this Indiana to kind of go for?
Yeah, so I think the first step is to find out what you want. So when I was looking for different courses, I found that like this course, a human computer interaction, HCI, very interesting. It is like a pretty good mix of like design, business, psychology, research, and some technical skills as well. So it like having like an engineering background before and doing some like design work in India, I think that helped me build some skills that I thought and like this course will help me even like elevate. So I think learning about business, learning about like engineering, learning about like research, I think these are very important for a designer, and taking those classes I think was really important for me to like learn and like become better. And how the process was coming to the US is basically once you decide that you want to do this particular course, maybe it's computer science or maybe it's like data science or HCI. Once you've decided, you first step is to give your GRE and GMAT or like the like basically GRE and TOEFL or IELTS. So these are like the two or three important exams that you need to give. Nowadays, I've seen a lot of universities have waived those requirements, but during my time, it was I think almost compulsory for everyone to do that. Once you have got your like GRE score and your TOEFL or IELTS score, uh, then you started looking at your score and your profile, and you started like evaluating where you stand in terms of like what kind of universities. So I kind of divided the like all the universities into like three different groups. One was like super ambitious, one was something I can apply and get, and something which I thought was safe. So these are like the three categories I like chose the universities that I was interested in based on the location, based on the reviews, based on the people that I've like seen online. Just learning about like what are the courses, but what are the every school has some kind of specialization. So you look into it, you see their courses, see the professors. They do a lot of research as well. Like see that who they're collaborating with, like in terms of companies and in terms of partnerships. So once you evaluate all these things, you choose a couple of universities. Some people go with like 3 to maybe like 10 or 12 university. So once you've done that, then you apply the process. I think now it's fairly simple. You need to have like a statement of purpose, SOP. You need like two or three letter of recommendations. You need to have the scores ready, and then there might be like a requirement of like a portfolio, or at that time I had to build my own portfolio as well. So I like quickly in like couple of weeks I had like a portfolio ready, and you send all those material to the university, and they give you like a yes or no kind of basic result. So I had gotten into like I had because I was up, and this happens twice a year, right? So this admission happens in spring and in fall. So I was applying for the spring semester, and most universities open during fall, but I wanted to like not wait for 6 more months. So I applied for the six spring universities, and I applied to three, and from those three, I got admitted into two, and then Indiana University actually offered me like a scholarship and some like research and like teaching assistantship. So that was, I think, very helpful in terms of like managing the finances and keeping that like safe. So I think having that support from the university really helped, and that's how actually I like got enrolled.
Sounds amazing, uh, and I think I would really kind of fixate on this that while choosing a college, research about the college, and that's really important because what kind of professors are there, as you said, what kind of research they are doing, companies that they're
Hmm.
collaborating with, and other pieces are really important and comes a lot into play, and that sounds
Yeah.
amazing. So, how was kind of your experience doing HCI abroad, and uh, how what kind of things kind of the expectations that you went with did kind of came through, or kind of how that happened, or like what was that thing?
Yeah, I think it's first of all, it's it's not easy to leave your home country, leave your like comfort zone and move to a completely new country, completely new culture. And it's just like a 360-degree turn. And especially like I went to Indiana University, where it's like Midwest part of the US, and it's not very like large, right? The town Indianapolis is, it's like a small city, and it's not on like the east or the west coast where there are like a lot of Indians already, and where there are like a lot of like uh, even like a lot of bigger companies there. So I think it was like a smaller city in that sense, but I think the education made a lot of difference. So uh, I met some really amazing professors there, and I got a lot of like mentorship from there. I worked with them on like some like very interesting research. One being that I really was fascinated was about like research in health and like on aging population. So how do we improve our applications or improve our technology for older people who are like maybe 60 or 70 plus. So they do these kind of research where they're not just focused on like the okay the next big thing, but they're also focused on how do we improve the overall lives of everyone around us. And this was like something really interesting to me to just see how much they're invested and how much research they do on these topics. And I think courses wise, some of the courses were, I think, challenging, and the good part is it's very collaborative. So HCI as a field, a lot of projects that we were doing like group projects. It was like a very like fun energy, collaborative energy around. We would like work like on during nights, during like just getting our prototypes, presentations, and like our proposals ready. And we participated in some like hackathons. And uh, overall, I think it was like very collaborative. We read a lot. I think we used to get a lot of like reading materials. We get a lot of assignments. So you do that. Some are individual, some are collaborative in groups, and they're like mix of courses. So you can choose, you have some electives, and you also have some like courses that you have to compulsorily take. One of like I learned one of the courses that was really impactful was like a business value creation course. And that is one course where like worked with like three different companies like Starbucks, Amazon, and GE. And they gave us like prompts and like some problems that they were facing, and we had to create a solution around that. And that was like a very fast like in one semester working with three companies and creating solutions for them. That was, I think, one of the most challenging but also most rewarding like classes that I had been. And some courses were like very really like life changing, I would say. Like one was this, and then there were like others as well where you worked on certain projects, and these projects kind of help you build your portfolio as well. So when I was applying for my internships, I think that was the time when I had realized like how much like the body of work that I already had, and that I could use that and like just like uh, put it in a better way in the portfolio and start applying.
Sounds amazing, and I think you're definitely putting across a point that the research that the people there do and other pieces around it, they are really amazing, and they kind of go deep into the problem and kind of solve it in the best way possible. And that's really amazing. I
Mhm.
think that experience would have really enhanced your design knowledge and your design skills. So that sounds amazing. So after your college, like how is the design job market in US, and uh, and any pointers that you can say about that?
Yeah, I think applying for jobs starts even when you're in the college. So it starts when you're applying for your internships. That is the first time that yeah. So in the 2 year course during summer, which is after probably like 1 year, you look outside for internships. I had applied almost, I remember almost like more than 300 companies. It was like a grind. So every day, wake up, work on your portfolio, and get feedback from others, work on your resume, improve the like language, improve like the skills and everything, and just apply, interview, talk to people, network. So it was a lot around that during the internship as well. So I think that created a lot of like foundation in terms of how do you apply for jobs, how do you look for opportunities, what are the things that recruiters are looking for, how do you speak with recruiters, how do you speak with hiring managers, how do you connect with them. I think we learned a lot of things while actually applying for internships. And that's where I think so I had started applying in, imagine started applying in almost like September. And I had received like two or three offers, but the last offer that I received was in May, and that was from Google. So from September to May, I was interviewing and I was just applying, and I was in the process neck deep. So it took a couple of months, but I think at the end it was like super rewarding. And that's how I think the internship opportunity at Google, that really was like the life changing moment, I think, in terms of my career. There I got to meet like some really amazing designers, and I worked on a platform called Stadia, which was a gaming platform. It's like basically a Netflix but for games, so you can stream any like high quality games. And that was a new platform that they were working on. Now I think it's shelved. The project is not there anymore. But at that time, it was like a super high priority project for Google, and they invested a lot. And that was like a 0 to 1 project that I got to like see the process, like how it works within like a large company, and like just be part of that and like contribute. And after that, I think once the internship was over, I had like some like great learnings. Then it became slightly easier for me to apply for full-time jobs, because having like some background, or like having like a credible company in your resume, I think that really helped me to apply for like be more ambitious with my applications. Then I started applying, and I got a call from Ideo. I did the whole interview process with them, and that was in their head office in Palo Alto. And Ideo was something that I was always like fascinated with. That is the company which actually started this whole like UX and like whole culture, and that like my whole like learning was, I think, started from like reading about them and reading about how they worked with Apple, how they created the first like keyboard and mouse with them, and their work with Steve Jobs and stuff. So that was, I think, one reason I wanted to really get into like a agency like IDEO and see the process and be a part of that organization. So that's how I think like I started my journey getting the internship and full time. And yeah.
Amazing. And I think being part of organizations like IDEO and Google really kind of puts you forward in your journey. And just as a designer, it really helps you kind of build, because even we as designers have heard about IDEO from the really start and how it started, and that's a really
Mhm.
big company in the design space. And being part of their team for some while, and that really kind of enhances your experience. I have two quick questions about this. So the process that you said from September to May to kind of close Google as the one of the places you want to intern at. What would be your favorite part of the whole process, and what would be your worst part of the process?
In terms of interviewing, I think the favorite part was like doing. They had given like a design challenge, so they gave a design challenge to mostly, I think, all the candidates, and you had like a 1 week to do that like design challenge and submit it in form of like either a presentation or a website or something. So that I think I really like working on like some of the challenges, and if someone gives any problems to solve, I'm really excited to solve it. So that was, I think, really fun for me to just like get into like you have like a time constraint that it's only 1 week, and you have to do some like very basic research. You have to like talk to people, understand the problem, work on some designs, put it in a presentation, and send it to them. And just doing this whole thing in 1 week, I think that was something that I thought would be like very tough, and it was, but I also enjoyed the process. And something I didn't actually like at that time was, after the interviews are done at Google, I think they did the team matching rounds, and which took sometimes could take a lot of time, right? Like you talk to like different hiring managers, and different hiring managers talk to different candidates. So you both have to like each other and think that okay, this team or this individual works best for us. And that's how I think they give an offer once you have like both the hiring manager and the candidate like say yes to each other. So that was, I think, a bit long process for me just to like get the right team. And yeah, so this was like the highs and lows for me.
And they are fantastic about what you said, because uh, while I think that that team matching process, I do know. I think they do uh, kind of start your process. I think I'm assuming this is through the training period of their start, and when they kind of try to match you guys, as for my knowledge. But I
No,
really
I think
love.
this is even before the like once before even you get the offer letter. So
Oh, got it.
if you're not matched, if you've cleared all the interviews and you're still not matched with the team, you won't get an offer letter. So that was, I think, the like toughest part to get like the right team, so that you can get an offer letter and you can join.
Interesting. And I agree. I have heard from a lot of people that it takes a lot of time, even 6 to 8 weeks, easily to kind of figure the right team, both matching each other out. That sounds amazing. So the next thing would be a little bit about IDEO, and then we can talk about Google and your experience around that. But how was IDEO as a company? How was IDEO for you as a designer?
Yeah, I think came in a really interesting time when I had just graduated, and I was very excited to like get my hands like into the like product development process and work with the teams and actually like like produce some good work. So I think when I joined IDEO, I was assigned to a project. The client was Ford, and they were thinking about. I think it was 2016, and they were thinking about. Sorry, it was 2018, and that time they were thinking about this like whole autonomous vehicles and how would autonomous deliveries work. So right now you have that Amazon van comes and there's like a person who delivers packages to you, and they were thinking about automating that. So how could a van come in your locality and you go there and there's a locker and you press like the password or keyword and then you get your stuff out of that locker. So it's like a self delivery locker or like a delivery vehicle. That was like a really interesting problem to solve. Uh, we worked on the actual vehicle as well. So there were like mechanical engineers who were working on. So I think Ideo being like end-to-end design company, you work with like industrial designers, you work with mechanical designers and prototypers, and it's not just like software, but it's a mix of hardware and software. So that was very interesting, and they also had like business analysts working on it, like working out like the cost, working out how to monetize this and how this work. The whole process of like seeing like the team of designers and engineers collaborating together on like such a challenging problem, that was amazing to see. I think at IDEO this is really their strength to like how do they bring different disciplines of design together and create a like very user centered solution. uh, Unfortunately, I think that project was like very conceptual, so that we knew that just wouldn't get launched in public in like at least in like several years. So it was like very high level work, and we did like some prototypes and some testing with real users, but that was, I think, the end of it. So we knew that this wasn't going to get launched for the public because for our autonomous vehicles and things like this, you need a lot of like permissions, and there's a lot of like legal things involved, and which I think would take us like, and the quality as well, right? How well the quality of the driving is, and uh, I think there are a lot of things involved which could take some time. So I think a couple of months later, one of my managers from Google, she reached to me. She reached out to me for like an opportunity in her team, and that's how I think like 4 or 5 months at IDEO, and then I decided to okay, like let's move to Google and work over there. At that point of time, I wanted to work on more like real projects which were out there, which will be used by real people and like have more impact in short term. So that's how I like transit did my transition to Google.
It sounds amazing because, as you said, because uh, IDEO being a big company, I think a lot of companies would come to kind of do experimental projects, which they that might go out, that might not go out, and but that really gives designers an opportunity to work with different people, different variety of people, and work on different variety of projects, physical, digital, and other pieces, which really is fantastic. But and I think really I resonate with the thing that you working on projects, working on things that are real in the world, that people are using daily to daily, that really does impact as a designer of what kind of impact you're bringing to people's life. And that's really sounds amazing for the reason that you kind of shifted to Google. So kind of you shifted to Google. I think you started working in the workspace team, or like how I think first the ads team. So and then now you were at the workspace team. How that experience has been so far. How is Google different from IDEO? Can you share some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's very different from Ideo in the sense that Ideo is like an agency where you work with like different clients and you create solutions for them. Whereas Google being the product company itself, there are like so many different like opportunities and products within Google, and you work directly with the engineers and PMs and like all the leadership to launch stuff. So in that sense, it's very different, but they have their own like both have their own like pros and cons, right? Uh, like in an agency environment, you actually get to work on like a lot of different projects. You can work on like a healthcare project, and then in like few months you can move to an automotive projects, and then maybe like an education related project or a finance project. So you work on like a variety of stuff. And early on my career as well, like working with agencies, that's where most of my learning happened, because you work in such a fast paced environment, and you work on different things, so you get to learn a lot. So if you want to prioritize learning, I think the best is, I feel, to get into an agency, work on different kinds of projects, see what you're liking, and then make a decision. At Google, I think what you get to do is you go really deep, right? So if you are in a team, so I joined ads team. At that time, that was based in LA, and they were doing some really complex work around managing like dashboards, working with sales teams. How do they pitch clients? How do they get the revenue in? And then you work with like such high numbers in terms of revenue, and like every change that you make could impact a lot. So you really have to like dig deep and get to like understand the basics, like the foundations, and that's how I think most of the learning happens, where you actually uh, it's not like high level understanding, but you get deep and you learn a lot.
And it really sounds same because that's and that's Google, and that's kind of the process that they have to go through. And I think that's really amazing how your journey has been and everything around it. But I think one question that everybody who would be listening would have, so what kind of advice would you have for people who really want to get hired to Google? Can be some people who are currently in US, can be some people who are Indian, kind of aspiring to kind of eventually get to Google like company. So what would you recommend to those people?
Yeah, I think first of all, like there are like a couple of skills required. Skills in the sense, like when we interview, we like really look for like collaborative people, right? Like you have to be a like person who other people want to work with, and you're collaborative. You build on other people's ideas, and you're like a fun person to like work with. So I think that is really important, that you have that open mindset. You are open to feedback. You're open to learning, and there's no like ego involved in like design, right? Like when you are designing, you're open to so many other feedback and ideas, and you have to prioritize that and be able to take it. So I think that being open, I think that is very important. Being collaborative, so be able to like work with different people. So you work with marketing, you work with legal, you work with like very closely with engineers and PMs, of course. And I think that is like the whole skill of like managing different people, working with different people, and getting things done. I think that is really important. And I think the most important, of course, is like your design skills. Like how good are your visual design skills? How fast can you think of like different solutions? How can you actually connect dots? How can you reuse things? How do you and that these could the problems could come from anywhere, right? Like there's some small like engineering problem. How do you help engineers solve that? So I think it's a lot about just being aware, just being collaborative, and keep updating yourself, keep learning new things, and having like your skills at the top of the game. I think uh, when I joined Google, I think I faced a lot of like imposter syndrome. So, which is basically you feel that other people are much better than you, and you are not at that level, or you think that you're not good enough. I think I faced that a lot in like couple of months that I started, because I was the most junior designer on the team, and everyone else who I felt was like just killing it. They had like all their shit together, and they knew what they were doing. And ads at that time was such a I think right now also, but it's such a complex product and big team that like every new person would feel that like, okay, I don't know anything about it, and even like experienced people, they also might miss a couple of things. So I think just getting over it, I think it's very important. Like in managing your imposter syndrome, being aware that okay, you don't know everything, but you have to be open to learn and ask and get feedback and get help. I think that really is important in a bigger company because uh, the things move. So sometimes it moves very quickly, sometimes it moves very slowly, but you have to like keep pushing things.
And that sounds right because and I think I have one more questions around this. So, if you could answer it, so is the process still like you apply and there are like whiteboarding rounds or other pieces of this, or like how the process goes?
Yeah. So the process is basically you start with talking to like one of so basically recruiter will like you'll have the first round with the recruiter, and once they pass you, then you would talk to a designer, and that would be like a phone call or a video call, 60 minutes, and that's where they decide like do they want to interview further or not. And once you clear that phone round, then the real like interview process starts, where you have a whiteboard challenge, you have a critique challenge, app critique. You might even and it depends on like how they assess your different skills. So there are different types of interviews. So they might test you on your like collaboration skills, or they might test you on your design thinking skills, or how do you work with the different people. So there are like a couple of different interviews that are assigned to you based on what the first or second like interviewers think based are your like skill sets and what are you good at or what are your strengths. And there could be anywhere between like 6 to 8 rounds of interviews. And then I think there's on-site interview as well, where they invite you to the campus and you uh, actually solve like a problem with them, and then you talk to different managers, different team members. And uh, yeah, I think it's a fairly long process, could take up like months and months, and some people might also like and it goes up to like could have gone to like a year as well for some people. So it's a very elaborative process because they want to hire probably like they want to be sure of who they are hiring, so they want to keep the process a uh, little bit more like tough and uh, yeah.
But that really sounds fascinating about how long the process is and how interesting processes that they have. And I think as Google keeping that standard above, I think that it has to be maintained, and that's how it goes. One curious question from myself. So when we kind of apply to Google or company like that, uh, obviously we apply with our portfolio and everything. So uh, how that gets shortlisted? Is it through the HR itself? Do the designers also get involved? And if that happens, what kind of things people look at the first glance to even do the first call?
Hmm. Yeah, I think uh, the good thing is like I've seen the recruiters look at all the portfolios or all the applications that come in. So I had when I applied, I did not have any like recommendations or anything. I just applied directly through the website, and I think that's how a lot of people also apply. And they do look at like a lot of like I think they look almost all the applications. So the most important thing is your resume. So your resume should be like I think basics, right? You have to have the resume easy to read, easy to understand. It should be relevant with the role. So if they're hiring for a particular team, if they see that the work that you have done is kind of similar, I think the chances improve a little bit. Also, the relevant skills, experience. So and those things I think really matter. Once you have your resume, I think then the portfolio comes into play. So having like a portfolio with a few case studies, explaining your process, explaining how you think, talking about yourself, you need to show a little bit of your personality, who you are, what's your design style like, and what are your principles, and who you are as a person. I think that is really important. And I think once you have your resume and portfolio ready, and once the experience matches up and once all the criterias are met for them, I think then the recruiter sends it to like different hiring managers, and they can take a look and they can ask for like okay, like I like this person, let's interview them. So that's how I think it goes. So first is the recruiter looking at it, and then the designer or the hiring managers looking at it.
That sounds amazing, and that's I think the secret sauce of kind of a lot of people would be looking for to kind of understand how the process goes, and it really helps to kind of people give people a kickstart. Uh, and I think the, that's amazing that you have been Google, Ideo, and other pieces. But I think let's move with the little fun round of the podcast. That's a rapid fire. So it's just a basic round. I will ask you a bunch of questions or give you choices. You can choose one or give one answer, and if you want to explain, you can. So let's just start. Okay. So the first one: would you prefer designing for aesthetics or accessibility?
I think that's a tough one because I think I would do try to do both. Like if you make something accessible, why not even make it aesthetic? So accessible first and then aesthetic.
Sounds fair. Would you prefer collaborating with other designers or working solo?
I think definitely collaborate with other designers. I think that is something that I've really enjoyed at Google because there are so many talented designers around, and once you work with them, you get to like see how like the process is of there, and then also like understand in terms of like how do you like because when you work with another person, another designer, you're not just like it's not just one plus one. It becomes I think much more than that. So once you start bouncing off ideas and once you start building on top of like each other like like the ideas and I think that could go to a really like a next level like once you actually start bringing other people in the process as well. So I feel I think for some things it's good to work alone, but in like a lot of other things like collaboration or brainstorming or these kind of like activities, it's fun to actually get other people.
And sounds good. Next one. So, would you use data to inform design decisions or rely on your creative instincts?
I think it's a mix of both, right? Like you need to definitely be data informed. Like you need to know what the data says, but at the end, I think it's your intuition or it's your like basically yeah, it's basically how do you want to approach it. So it's always better to understand what the data is saying and what people are saying, and also I think use some of your own understanding and some of your own like principles as well. So I think having a mix of both is the best, but start with the data, understand what the sentiment is.
And I think sounds fair as well. Okay, so would you prefer creating designs that evoke emotions, or would you prefer making designs which focuses on functionality?
Uh, I think depends on the use case. So if I'm working on like an enterprise application, I think the goal of an maybe that application is people get to do their work faster, be more productive. So I think in that way, I think functionality wins. But if it's like an app which has, I think it's like a social media app or it's like something more consumer focused, then I think invoking emotions or making it fun to use, and I think that really comes up. So depending on the context, it could some apps could be more functional and some apps could be more emotional or be more like interactive with the user.
Makes sense. Okay, so the last one. Would you experiment with new design tools or stick to the tried and true favorites?
I personally love exploring like new tools. So if there's any new tool in the market, I go out and like try it out and see. So in my team also, when I think we were using Sketch before, and then Figma was a bit more like popular, we started like pushing other designers and just like showing how it works and like migrating from like Sketch to Figma. And I think yeah, I love exploring different like design tools and seeing how that works. But I think also like the migration itself could be a long process, so it's good to like stick to one tool for some time and not keep switching, because then there's a switching cost with the engineers and with the PMs, and you need to educate them as well. But it's as a like a like, personal satisfaction, I love to like explore new tools.
Amazing. I have a curious question. At Ideo, did you guys use Figma or like still Sketch?
I think at that time we used Sketch. I think that time I don't even think Figma was very popular, or it wasn't even like released in like 2017 or 18. So yeah, I think it was mostly Sketch. Even at Google, my initial like first year was just Sketch, and now it's all Figma.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Awesome. Awesome, Rahul. As in, we are almost at the end of the podcast, but I just have two last questions left. So, your journey has been such an amazing journey. You have been with all ups and downs, studied abroad, kind of applied to 300 plus companies, and everything kind of came across really with ups and downs. But now I really want to ask, what's next for you?
Mhm. Yeah, I think I'm still figuring out in terms of like I want definitely to get into more of like leadership roles, try to like have more influence of like in my work as well. I think there are so many new opportunities coming. We're seeing like a wave of generative AI and like a lot of like new things coming along like every day, and probably like every hour there's something launching. So I want to, I think personally it's been really hard to keep up with everything, but it's something that I want to like figure out, see like how can I implement these things into the products that I work on, and also like get better understanding of the technology behind it, and the implications of that technology to like different users, and how would they perceive it, because it's still very new. So for next for me, I think is definitely get like being more impactful, as well as being like understanding these technologies, and thinking of ways to how do we like create like users like, best journeys for our users.
Sounds fair, and and that's a really interesting journey that you're going to take forward with. I think we are at the end question of the podcast, and that's something that is for the audience out there who's listening. So, with your journey, you have learned so much. So, what's one piece of advice you would give to the audience who would be listening, who are the budding designers of the world right now?
Yeah, I think first of all is like uh, be like really passionate about this field. I think if you're in this field and if you're doing this, this is like not a traditional field where you study that in bachelor's and then like you continue. But this is something most people find out a bit later in their journeys, and they stumble upon it. I think I've met so many people who are like who had a very different background or different careers, and then they moved into design. So if you are in this, I think probably because you're like really passionate about it, and you feel really deeply about helping users and helping businesses grow. So I think just continue being that passionate. Like after some time, it like it just becomes a job and not something that you're like really invested in or interested in. So keep trying, like uh, keep up with the passion that you started with, and keep learning, keep like listening to people, like understanding how they work, how they think, how they work, and keep up your game. I think that's really important. It's very competitive now, and there's so many people. So you really have to find your voice, and that comes by actually working on it, being passionate, figuring out who you are, what are your strengths. So yeah, just exploring yourself, and keep an eye and ear out of like what's happening outside as well.
And it just sounds fair because I heard from a lot of people out there that uh, that passion is really important when you're doing something. And I think I still remember a thing that a person said, a Microsoft designer said to me that if you are passionate about something, 24 hours feels like 24 minutes.
Yeah,
So and
that's very
that's
true. Like
really, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, that's so true. I think like hours would pass by and you wouldn't know that so much time has passed if you're like really in that flow, and if you're like deep into the design work. So yeah, I agree.
And I think like that's it because if you're passionate about something, you're definitely going to put your effort into it. And as I said, that's something that's the world is going to help you kind of figure things out, and eventually, everything is uh, going to be understanding well for you. So
Hmm.
Rahul, that makes a lot of sense, and I think this advice is really going to be helpful for a lot of folks. Uh, Thanks a lot, Rahul, for coming in, and I think your journey has been such an amazing inspiration for a lot of people who would be listening. And I think I'll especially kind of leave your socials in the description for anybody who want to reach out to Rahul. But thanks a lot, Rahul, for coming in. Thanks a lot for taking out small time
Thanks,
for your
Abhay, for having me.
social media.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I
thanks a
think
lot.
that
Yeah.
your time means a lot to us, and I think people would have learned a lot from your journey. Any parting words that you would want to say?
No, I just yeah, just parting words wise, I think just be passionate. Reiterating what I said, keep learning new things, be open minded, and I think don't take too much stress. I think take a chill, and I think that's really important. Take breaks, and if you're mentally, if you're well, then I think you can do your work well as well. So prioritize yourself.
Sounds amazing. Thanks, Rahul, for coming in, and thanks everyone who has been listening to the end. Thanks a lot, everybody, and see you guys in the next one.